As the allegations continued to mount against Diddy, many people were left wondering how was one man able to get away with so many crimes for so long. In this video, I'm going to go over the top 3 psychological power moves that Diddy employed to hold back the floodgates for this long. So one of the things that seems to surprise people the most is how many people Diddy worked with, yet none of them came forward prior to this point. But what these people don't understand is that precisely because he works with so many different groups, that none of them have came forward. See, Diddy has discovered so many more artists that are much more popular than him, which is frankly not that hard. I mean, most people only know like 2 songs by Diddy, but you know, Biggie, Usher, Mary J. Blige, all of these artists directly are Diddy's proteges. And throughout his entire career, he seemed perfectly okay with them receiving the majority of the attention, just as long as people understood that, hey, I'm the one pulling the strings. And the positioning that he had with the public was very interesting because of this dynamic, because it was almost as if Diddy was like the organizer of the event of this song, which allowed him to reap all of the benefits thereof, but not have to suffer under the white hot spotlight that some of these major artists that he employed did. Jimmy Page, 21 Savage, and Busta Rhymes may have never been in the same room together, but all of them have worked with Diddy at some point. And this brings something to mind that Machiavelli wrote. The best possible fortress is to not be hated by the people. Because although you may hold the fortress, yet they will not save you if the people hate you. The seclusion that these superstars often search for once they become, uber famous, is its own prison. Because while you're not immediately around these people that, you feel like may hurt you, especially, if you're doing any alleged illicit activities, you are actually harming yourself because being in seclusion just builds up resentment and suspicion from the general public. And speaking of public goodwill, one of the best ways to get goodwill from the public is to buy it. It's this thing called charity. And I mean, it's one of the things that charity has always been used from the very beginning is to, frankly, whitewash public personas. What comes to mind immediately is like Al Capone opening up a soup kitchen during the Great Depression. Hey, he's not such a bad guy. I mean, he fed me. Hey, I'm walking here. And Diddy knew that right from the very beginning, because in 1995, he opened up a charity for youths called Daddy's House. Sus names aside, one person that you can contrast this, battle for public opinion with is Michael Jackson. Now, Michael Jackson was much bigger than Puff Daddy, ever was at any point. However, people thought that Michael Jackson was weird. That was intentional on his part. He always deliberately portrayed himself as like this almost alien-like creature. He's allegedly sleeping in an oxygen tank, and he bought the elephant guy's bones or whatever. Now, it doesn't matter if these are true things or not. It doesn't. What matters is that people were talking about this. This was in the air. So whenever, he had his first allegations, so many more people were likely to believe them right from the very beginning, because this years of groundwork had been laid of suspicion. Now contrast that with Puff Daddy, who had been in legal problems for decades, from the very first Puff. He was always getting in trouble, but partially because he was always out and about with all these different people and never went any further beyond the courtroom. And you can see this concept possibly best put on display at Diddy's infamous white parties. This is where literally old money Hampton elites would gather with the biggest names in show business at these events completely organized by Diddy. And it was not just exclusive to these, industry parties. Diddy was everywhere. I mean, it is surprising just how much stuff Diddy was in. He was in music. He was in music management. He was in movies. He was in just actual boardroom business ventures. And when you have all of these tentacles scattered about, it allows you to have all these connections and hear if there's any possible discontent, but it also allows you to have that face-to-face connection with so many people who are going to have that knee-jerk initial reaction that, nah, there's no way that anything possible could be going on there. Which leads to the first psychological power move, which is the middle of the herd is the safest place to be. One of the things that Diddy was able to accomplish with this vast network is that if you needed something done, he was the person to know. Diddy started his career as an intern at Uptown Records, and from there he built enough industry connections that he was able to introduce his own label, Bad Boy Records. See, the most valuable thing that Diddy must have learned at some point is that to be the most important person in the room, all you have to do is have something that everyone wants. If you have the V-Bucks, you can be the most, valuable person at the lunch table. It is a Darwinian precept. And this must have been just something that was cooked into his prefrontal cortex, because even before he was an intern back in his college days, he was regularly throwing parties that had 1,000 people showing up to a dorm room for a college party. He was that good at just selling the idea of what you want. Diddy was actually lethally good at convincing people that he had what they wanted. On December 28, 1991, in the City College of New York gymnasium during a charity basketball game organized by P Diddy, nearly 5,000 people tried to pack into the gymnasium, which could only fit 2,700. At some point, the crowd began rushing into the bottom of the stairs, which opened inward into the lobby, not outward into the gymnasium. The doors were left closed for up to 15 minutes as the crush worsened. 9 people were crushed to death at the bottom of the staircase, while 29 others were injured. And I bring up this case for 2 reasons. Number 1, to show just how Diddy had a way with words to convince 5,000 people to show up to a gymnasium, and also to show that P Diddy was good at not getting in trouble. There were no criminal charges filed against Puff Daddy for this event. I literally do not know how you can get away with 9 people being crushed to death and no criminal charges. But he did it. And from the moment that he gets his own record label, you can see that his power only continues to grow. While yes, Diddy was a rapper, he only started his professional music career after he was running his own record label. It's honestly one of the smartest things I've ever seen done in the music business. He's like, hey, the record guys control all the power in the business. I'll just become one of the record guys. Because especially at that point, a music label held all of the power in the negotiation. If the labels just didn't want you, they didn't think that you were an asset, they just wouldn't sign you. And guess what? No one would ever hear your music. So you have people begging P Diddy, please put me on your album. And because of that power dynamic, you can see how Diddy knows that every person that he comes across in the music business would love to do anything to impress him, and those who he does, show favor on, owe their undying loyalty to him. And you could possibly see that this may lead to a position where some corruption could possibly happen. I mean, at one point in time, Usher as a teenager was literally just living with Diddy in his Flavor Camp program. Just really on the name. It's really right there, isn't it? Yeah. It is just startling to see how out in the open it was. I mean, at one point in time, there was a show on national television, Making the Band, that was literally just about pleasing Diddy. Literally, we've got this group of people here together, and they are all vying for Diddy's approval, so that way he can, knight them, and they can be put into the music business, and their dreams can come true. That's literally the show, Please Diddy. Which just plainly shows the second psychological power move of appeal to people's desires to get what you want. So this networking and utilizing people's desires are definitely ironclad techniques. However, there's one more that Diddy was in no way, shape, or form reluctant to use to shore up any and all dissidents. As I said earlier, Diddy has been in legal problems since the day that he was Diddy. And to give you a couple examples of this, in 1999, shortly after the music video for Nas's Hate Me Now aired on MTV, P Diddy got mad and him and some associates broke into Nas's former manager's office and attacked him. Originally charged with assault for the event, Combs pleaded guilty to a charge of harassment and was sentenced to spend 1 day in an anger management class. I think he may have needed 1 more day because in 1999, later that year, he was involved in a nightclub shooting, which also somehow surreally involves J-Lo, his then girlfriend. Jenny was truly from the block that day. And those are just 2 of the incidents that went to court. This is a very minor sampling of the entire situation. The 90s were an era of reputation with gangster rappers where you were supposed to actually be doing the things that you were rapping about. And P Diddy was like, I beat people up and killed them. And, and that's not even involving all of these new allegations, which you've noticed I haven't even brought up, because it's not even necessary to prove the point that whenever you have this massive, carrot in terms of like success and the huge stick in terms of like it may actually just be a stick coming towards your noggin, it can produce some very, very conforming people to your ideology. But while it is not ethical, it does bring up the third power move, which is selective use of violence can shore up power over people. So while none of us currently know how these Diddy trials are going to be going forward, I hope that this entire case study can serve as a cautionary tale to all of us to be aware of these psychological power moves to avoid being manipulated.